Okay, welcome to the BEwell Hub Series. Yeah, this is a space that's created for us to share our journey, share our expertise. My aim is to bring on guests like Dayna Powell today, who we're going to be talking about how to be more effective, how to actually save some of our energy and be more effective doing less or doing it better. The BEwell space is for us to just ask questions, to take something away, to come along as guest speakers or co-hosts to encourage this space and to spread the news. This is what we're doing. My name is Gary Marcus Judge. I'm connecting from Italy. My mission or my vision is just to connect and to contribute. This is what I do through voluntary work, through mentoring, and through this BEwell space. And so today, let me introduce you to Dayna Powell. Let me just give you some background information of our special guest. Dayna Powell is the founder of Dayna Virtual Services. She has a wealth of experience as a small business owner, and she's an online business manager. She's passionate about helping businesses thrive by simplifying operations and focusing on what truly matters. So, Dayna, thank you very much for coming here, giving us your time, and perhaps you can introduce yourself and just take us into the topic.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Dayna. As Gary said, I'm from Kingston, Jamaica. So I'm from Jamaica right now speaking to you guys. It's a little bit hot. The summer hasn't fully completed for us because it's still going. But yeah, I started my business 2 years ago as a virtual assistant, and I gradually implemented and grew my business in a 2-year span to become an online business manager at this time. So yeah, any questions for me?
Yeah, let's take a little bit about, the topic is less is more, mastering strategic simplicity. So can you talk to us a little bit about the personal productivity? How can we do less by achieving more in a personal realm?
Okay, so we're going to break this down into two components, personal and business. Reason being, a lot of persons says they want to be balanced as regards to their business, have strategic business, strategic personal life, just the same. But less is more for me, and that is what I teach all my clients as regards to running their business. So the first thing that I want to say is you can't do it all. Yes, you have it in your head, I can do it, but when you take it from your head and you put it to paper or on your tablet, it's a lot. And it's only 24 hours in a day, right? So for me, I break it up. So we brain dump. That's the first thing we want to do. Brain dump. At the beginning of the week, whichever of the month, brain dump. Take it from your head, put it out there where you can physically see it. Once you can physically see it, then we're going to tackle important, urgent, less minor tasks. And we do that for home as well, personal, business, because we don't want to have them colliding, right? And once you get that done, then you'll be able to see your way going forward, right? So we take it from our heads, put it on paper, on your tablet, and then we tackle each task at a time, where you'll be able to do more in less time. So if you take an hour out of your day to say, okay, I'm going to tackle my kitchen today, an hour, put it on a timer. Once that hour is completed, that's it. If it's same in business, if I'm going to do a project and it gives you 2 hours, it's 2 hours, not 201, but 2 hours, right? So once that 2 hours is up, that's it. That task is done for the day. So if you have that task on your calendar for 3 times out of the week, that's basically 6 hours that you're giving each task, right? So that 2 hours and the remaining hours that you would have is to do something else. What if you're a person that want to show up on podcasts? What if you're a person that want to go out with your kids? So you'll be able to strategically manage your time more when you go ahead and basically put your tasks out there where you can physically see them, not having them in your head, not having them in your project management tool, but put them out there where you can physically see them and say, okay, this is what I got to do. So yeah, that's the first thing.
Okay, so let me ask you. I mean, the floor is open, right? So anyone wants to put a question to Dayna, please feel free. It's an open room here. My question is priority. How do we prioritize the tasks, Dayna? How do we know what is important, what's less important, what's urgent? Is there a strategy you can give us to prioritize our tasks?
Yes, definitely. So for business, not everything can be important. There are some things that are due within a few hours, some that are due in a few days, a few weeks, even a month. So based on what you have and your deadline, you categorize each task. Do not overwhelm yourself with too much. Categorize your tasks. If you have a VA, if you have somebody working with, let them know. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. If you have regular meetings or if it's just you, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna focus on my urgent tasks that are due within a few hours. Next, okay, I see a task that can be completed 2 months from now, but do I have a 15 minutes to spare that I can definitely hit this out of the park? Sure, you can do that. Or you can leave it for a closer date to the 2 months and tackle it. But it all depends on how much work you have on your plate. Because if you're a mom and you have kids that have soccer practice, all these things, you have to make sure that you have time for your family. So you can't be saying, okay, yes, I have 15 minutes to spare today, but I'm gonna spend it with my kids. Next week, I might still have that 15 minutes. I'm gonna take on work. So you go ahead and you make that choice as regards to what is it that you wanna basically focus on. So that's a good way to hit it out spark.
Yeah. I was just thinking about some of the tasks that we take on. We seem to think it's only 5 minutes. It's only this, it's only that. We take it on. Like, don't worry, I'll do that. I'll send you I'll send you a mail. I'll translate that document. Leave it with me. It seems just 5 minutes. It just seems nothing at all, really. But how do we avoid overcommitting to these little 5-minute tasks that don't seem anything, but when they all come together, create this overwhelm and stress? How can we avoid that?
It's the same thing. So for me, my 5-minute task would take you probably 30 minutes, right? So for me, if I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna take on 2 5-minute tasks, and when I look at it and I say, oh my God, this is not gonna be 5 minutes, what am I gonna do? Am I still gonna take it on? Or am I gonna leave it on the table and go back to it at another time? Well, Gary, you're looking stunned. So what you can do is start the task. Start it. You don't have to finish it, but start it. Once you start, you have to finish. So you start that 5-minute task, allow yourself for that 5 minutes or even 6. And then, okay, that 5-minute task, that's enough that I can give to you at this time. And then you go back to it. It's not going to go anywhere unless you move the pin forward, right? So if you keep that 5-minute task and you don't do anything, it's going to always be there. There's no movement going forward. But if you tackle that 5-minute task, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, it adds up, right? And then the task will be completed. So don't try to overwhelm yourself saying, oh, it's not a 5 minutes. I'm going to have to put 30 minutes down. No, give it that 5 minutes and then move on. Put it in your...
Is there a way, Dayna, that we can try to understand, or how can we avoid this desire to continually take things on and say, I'll do it. It's, leave it with me. I'll say, it's very easily done, because I work in a environment where people are asking me, "Oh, Gary, have you got that?" "Yeah, I've got it. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you later." And it seems like, it's just later, and then I'm thinking all of those little laters and all that all come together, and then how can I stop that? What can I do to stop that?
So my best advice to you: learn to say no.
Oh, okay.
You have to be blunt when you're running a business. If you're going to take on everything that comes your way, you're never going to go forward with what you need to truly focus on. You have to say no. If you asking me to look over a particular project and you know that, okay, I have my work as well, then I can say, okay, no, or I can give you 5 minutes out of my day. If you decide to say no, and that project, you check back on it. Check back on it. Go back to the person. You asked me to look on XYZ. Did you get a chance to actually complete it? So that they know I'm keeping track, but it's just that I cannot have it done on my plate. But I'm keeping track to make sure that it's done.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Let's see. Someone got any thoughts here? Lily?
Oh, go ahead, Lily. Go ahead.
I was just curious to dive a little deeper in, because I think it's very nuanced for each person, right? So I like your question, Gary. Like, what would be an example? Is it just like sending a forward or something? Like, what would it matter depending on the activities or grouping them, or I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, it's very nuanced. So like, what would be an example?
Do you mean stacking the activities together? Is that what you're talking about, Lily?
Not really. I'm just wondering, like, a specific example from you. Are you talking about like, I'll get back to you like in the email, I'll send you an email with this information, or what is a task? Because I think it depends, doesn't it? Wouldn't you say, Dayna, the tasks that you need to get back to? And
yes.
Maybe so, then what Gary said, it would make sense to stack them. Sorry, Dayna, go ahead.
Right. So as it regards to tasks and getting it complete, you want to make sure that, okay, for example, Lily, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, if you send me an email and you want me to go ahead and work on something, you forward it to me, it's a part of what I have to do to get my work done, then I can go ahead and take a look. If it's not a part of my work that's gonna put my needle forward, then I cannot take a look. But I'm still gonna be able to check back in on you to make sure that you did that task. Is it something that I have to sign off to? So it all depends on what the task is. So once you made that decision, okay, these tasks that I'm gonna forward to Gary, I need his approval in order to get the project moving forward. Then Gary knows that he has to take a look. He has to check that document, whatever it is, in order to make sure that the next person that's going to get the job has everything that they need. If it's something that has nothing to do with Gary, Gary can decide no, or I can check back in later when I have spare time, or he can just say, okay, I'm gonna keep track of you to make sure that the task is complete, but that's it. So it all depends on what the task is that you want to go ahead and let them know as regards to the task.
Yeah. David, you had a question? David, you had
Lily would say she had you have a follow-up, Lily?
Just a quick follow-up, because I really appreciate both of those. And just like, I guess what you're saying is that we just need to check in maybe with Gary's example, like if someone's asking you on the run versus an email, or maybe delegating things or checking, maybe it's a great opportunity there to ask, like, do you need help with this, or can you do it? Because a lot of the times, don't you guys feel like people will ask, but then if we can like come back to them and say like, well, I could, but give them the autonomy, remind them of their ability and the place in the order of whoever's job it is. It's a great timing, don't you think, to remind people like, oh, well, I think you are very capable of finding that information or something like that. What do you guys think?
Yes, definitely. And you can always point them into the right direction. For example, if I'm an OBM and I know Gary has operation skills and need help with operational skills and I cannot take it on my plate, I can always refer you to Gary for him to take a second look.
Yeah.
So
I think we're talking about being strategically mastering strategic. Maybe it's understanding the resources that we have at our disposal.
Yes.
To be effective. That's what I think that's what Lily was talking about, actually. Am I the right person to be doing this, or am I the person who has the most time to be doing what you need? Can that be, asked from someone else, or can that be delegated rather than me taking on too much?
Exactly. So if you have limited resources, it's just you and a VA, and she needs you to take a look. You know that you are the CEO, so you have to take a look. So what you can do is, based on the urgency, you can put that in your to-do later task as well. If you're just 2 persons working and the resources are limited, then you can just say, okay, everything that I need to double check, I'm gonna do that between Friday, 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Nothing more. Anything else has to wait.
David had a question, had a thought. Go ahead.
Yeah. I use a lot of different technologies for different things, things I have going on. And what really frustrates me the most when I'm in a time crunch or something is for Microsoft or Google or somebody to do one of their upgrades. Because when I'm used to working with something to get something done in a specific time frame, and all of a sudden I've got to stop because they're doing an upgrade that changes nothing except let's just do it a little differently this time, but nothing's really changed. And then I had to go spend my time trying to figure out how in the heck did they do this, and why did they do it like this, and why is it different? And I end up spending hours just trying to fix the software. How can we plan for that?
Okay, so you cannot plan for a Google update unless they send it out. But what you can do, workarounds. What workaround do you have in place of your primary source that you're using?
Well, I can walk around my desk. Is that what I need?
Workaround, work. Now, yeah. So so Google would be your primary system that you're using, right? But
not necessarily. It depends on the project.
No, that's an example. Just an example. So that's your primary. And they're having an update, random updates. You have to get stuff done. What things do you have in place for secondary, your backup, in case that doesn't work? What do you have in place?
Well, some things work only in a specific software. It's like my website I'm working on only works in a specific software, and then my publication works in a different software. And there's just all kinds of different softwares that I can't just go and say, okay, now I'm going to use this software for that.
Right. Okay. So when I mean workaround, you're not changing the software, right? But for example, you want to update your Google account, your website, right? And it depends on what you want to update on your website. Is it something that you can jot down, and once Google is back up, you copy and paste it over, or it has to be something in the back end where you have to set up manually through the website? So it all depends on what you need.
I don't do the programming on it. I have someone else in the Philippines do all that stuff and everything, but they go through a specific program that I can have access to and I use. But I don't go in there and do it myself. I tell them what I want done, but then when they get the update, they have to do something different on it. And then when I look at it, I've got to do something different on it. It's just, there you are down there. Okay.
Let's keep the focus there. You know, less is more. Okay, let's keep on that, because otherwise, are we going to get lost with all it? Because this is a long conversation there.
Yeah. It's just real complicated for me. It takes so much time out of my day.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
We got a few questions. Debbie, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Gary. Yeah. Nice to meet you, Dayna. You come across as being quite balanced and okay with all of this, and that's actually inspiring for me, because I tend, you know, when you say less is more, when I hear what David has to say, you know, the frustration behind when things aren't going like you want them to go, right? And how can you, or how do you personally, I mean, for you yourself, how do you personally keep your equilibrium and focus on the less is more part? How do you personally, you know, not let yourself get wrapped up in, oh God, that just happened, that bad thing happened, or I wanted to do this and it was only going to take 5 minutes, but now it's taking 30 minutes, you know? I mean, how do you I don't know, I guess the best word here is just your equilibrium. How do you stay, you know, how do you stay cool, calm, collected, you know, say,
Definitely understand. Okay, so I'm gonna give you live examples. I have clients that do a lot of retreats, and it could be when we're planning is very, very important when it comes down to retreat, launches, those stuff, right? You have to plan to make sure that it works out. But even when you plan, there's something that's always gonna come up. So you always have to have your backup plan just in case. Always have a backup plan. Even if it's not solid as the primary, make sure that you have one, because sometimes you have to pivot in a way that is only giving you that amount of leverage. So if it's the case that you're doing SOPs, launch, whatever it is, and you're not getting to where you want to go based on system uploads, whatever it is, system down, take deep breaths. Okay, check back on your task to-do list. Okay, so I'm not able to do this now, so I'm gonna have to put it tomorrow and take tomorrow and put it to today. So you're not wasting the entire day trying to figure out why is it that I can't get this done. Focus on what you can do.
I fully agree with you. I think that's, you know, that's really, it's a standard procedure, like you say, you know, have your SOPs. That's your plan. That's, you know, that's how you have a plan. You have everything, you know, you have everything more or less planned, or you have a standard of procedures, and then, but what if I'm just going to put it in plain language, all hell breaks loose, or you were supposed to be doing this, but something else happened, then this happened, then this happened, and everything just kind of falls apart. And you're the person that people are depending on to be cool, calm, collected, you know, that person who well, I mean, that's what's coming across here right now, is that you have that under control, and you have it under control because you have a backup plan. That's what it is. That's how you keep cool, calm, and collected.
I think I
Even
saw.
if
Did I also understand Dayna was talking about being a little bit flexible with the tasks? I think that's what I understood as well. Should
yeah,
should Tuesday become blocked for whatever reason? Actually, transfer Wednesday's tasks to Tuesday and postpone Tuesday's tasks to another day. That's right. Did I understand that
that's
correctly?
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Because you can only control what you can control. You cannot control the unexpected. So what you can control is basically, okay, I glance over to my Tuesday task. Okay, I can hit these out of the park today. So those are what I'm gonna do. Get my team to know, okay, guys, this is what we're gonna do. Monday is not working out. Based on system upgrades, things are crashing. So this is what we're gonna do. Everybody go to your project management tool and Tuesday task. That's what we're going to tackle as a team. If you have any questions, reach out to me.
Okay, I get it. It's it actually falls under in coaching language awareness of the situation and awareness of the plans you have and awareness of the backup you have, and then being able to communicate that. Perfect. Thank you, Dayna.
You're welcome. I'm not
Steven's
good
got
at
his
coaching.
Dayna, Steven's got his hand up. Steven, you got a thought, Steven?
Well, so the first thought that came up was for David is if you ever have a bad instance with Microsoft or a bad experience, just call up the Genius Bar at the Apple Sales Center, and they will be more than happy to offer you free therapy on Microsoft issues, because they will agree with you. They'll validate you. They'll be quite empathic. You know, the most fun I've ever had is complaining about Microsoft to Apple people. They love it.
Yeah, and I got
That's
plenty
a
of
good
apples
one.
in the refrigerator.
And the other part that comes up is what Debbie was talking about. You know, it's this idea of, you know, if they're expecting you to be cool, calm, and collected in the midst of chaos, well, that's something that can be our primary goal. That can be our primary plan, is to be cool, calm, and collected in the midst of chaos. And I think that's usually what happens is what you'll notice is when chaos happens, and it will happen. It's that resilience. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, being flexible, because I wrote that down, being resilient. You know, we're talking about emotional resilience, but you can't have emotional resilience, or you can't be resilient in your experience unless something difficult happens, right? It's that bouncing back that actually defines what that is. So I think, you know, everything that we're talking about is having the plan, focusing on what will work. And then the biggest part, I think, there is the awareness. It's finding out what works for you, and, you know, finding out the tasks, all of these little nuggets of wonderful information, and it's blending that into your own ability to see what will work, you know, shift a little bit how you experience things, and help others along the way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Another question, Dayna. You're an online business manager, okay? So combining, like, you know, a professional and a personal life, where are the priorities? And, you know, you do less here, you achieve more there. Is it less at work to achieve more in personal life, or vice versa? Give us some thoughts on that in your particular situation.
For me, I don't like the saying getting a balance between personal life and business. I think if you try the harmony, work-life harmony, not work-life balance, but work-life harmony, you get much more. Because if you're going to do the balance, you're going to have to take something from personal to put into business, and something from business to put into personal, as regards to time. So it's like you're swapping time, right? In order to get that balance. But if you try the work-life harmony, okay, I'm gonna let this work based on my schedule. So my schedule, I work from 9 to 5. Things come up, that's perfectly fine. So what am I gonna do when things come up? Lily, what do you think? What are you gonna do when things come up, when it's basically, I don't want to swap time from my business to my personal, and I don't want to swap vice versa?
Well, what was coming up for me, which was really helpful, what you just said perfectly, beautifully, but also there's this book by Randy Zuckerberg called Pick Three. And I really love this idea, this concept of balance, like being not the goal and actually having a lopsided life, and then choosing within like a certain time frame, maybe every week, maybe every day, like picking between friends and family and sleep and work and fitness, like the major things in your life, and like allowing them to be lopsided. Okay, I'm not focused on fitness this week, depending on work things. I don't know if anybody's read that book, but it's really changed my perspective on what we're looking for with balance, and maybe redefining what balance is. Maybe balance is having a lopsided life and focusing on the big three of my day, my hour, my week. And you made me remember that, so I appreciate that. And I think it's really been very helpful to just not need to have balance in the traditional way and decide like, okay, what is my focus? Like you were mentioning, like the high priority things, and okay, maybe I feel usually stressed about not spending time with my husband, but this week we communicate that I need a little more time for something else. So I could talk about that a lot. So
Lily, do you want to put the name of that book in the chat, so we can, maybe whoever wants to look at it, they can?
yeah, no
They can-
problem. It's also by
Definitely.
Mark Zuckerberg's sister, which is, side note, really funny. She was introduced as Mark Zuckerberg's sister, and she's like responded with, no, I haven't changed my name officially to that, but thank you. I just really think the way she carries herself is really cool. But thank you for that little extra attention. Cheerio.
Any other insights before I ask another, just to take us away a little bit on mental clarity? Mental clarity, like we spend the day with so many thoughts going in our head, so many things that we have to do. So how can we manage that? How can we sort of like cut out all this, declutter some of those thoughts that come into our head? We think we have to do that, that has to be done, this has to be, you know, whatever. How can we, is there a strategy to declutter ourselves, our minds?
Yes. Okay, so I'm not a therapist and I'm not gonna speak on that aspect, but for me, I'm gonna give you what I tell my clients. Just the same as you can only control what you can do in the physical environment, that's what we're gonna do in our minds. Do not overthink. Overthinking only causes more clutter. If you're working on a project and you have three options, and it's in your head how you want that project to go, work with that three options. Don't overthink it. What if the 3 doesn't work? I'm gonna need 4. What if the 4 doesn't work? I'm gonna need 5. It's gonna constantly be going around and around in your head, only causing more chaos than what is truly needed. Focus on what is needed. If you have 100 projects for the month and they're not gonna be due on the same time, and even if they're due on the same time, find a way that works for you to get it done as regards to timing. If I'm going to work on 1 today, I'm going to work on 1 today. If I'm going to work on 2 tomorrow, I'm going to work on 2. Do not try to say, okay, I'm going to work on 2, 5, 6, and 8, but I'm gonna squeeze in 12. Oh, 12 isn't working out. What am I going to do? I'm going to go back to 5. It's going to only cause more confusion, right? Take away the clutter, stick to the straight, 180 degrees, straight path. Focus on what you need to have done, and that's how you eliminate that clutter, that mentality of, okay, too much is going on in my head. I cannot get everything done. Payroll, launches, book signing, all these things. Focus on timing. What you're going to do at a specific time, get it out of the way, focus on the next. Prioritize your mind, what's going on in your mind, basically.
Prioritize. Yeah. What about your less is more regarding relationships, regarding where we focus our energy on the people that matter?
I never want to put my friends and family in a box. And that's why I have strict work timing, 9 to 5. Anything else is on my personal time. If it is something that of urgency, then I will take a look. But 9 to 5 is my working time. If we're working on a launch, I might go up to 9 to 6. But I'm not going to go ahead and sacrifice my family time, and I'm not going to sacrifice my business time either. But I have strict timing as to when I'm doing what and what I want to do.
Well, I don't know. Have you guys got any other sort of insights? Because I mean, now we're working online, we're working across global time zones. Holidays are holidays here, but they're not holidays over there. Christmas is here, but Christmas is not over there. It's not celebrated over there. And I personally, as an online coach and the workshops that I attend or I run, I'm finding myself that those timelines are just not so clear. The 9 to 5 is not the 9 to 5 or it's a 9 to 5 for me, but it's like a 5 to midnight for Stephen, or it's like it's a Sunday for Debbie, and everything's getting crisscrossed. And so I don't know if that's so. I mean, Dayna says she's able to maintain that 9 to 5, less is more, and like I don't know if that's. What are your interactions with the time zones? I don't know.
So with time zone, you have to be realistic. I had clients in Australia. I had clients in England. I have clients in Canada, not too far from me, but US is 1 hour ahead of me. 9 to 5, when I say 9 to 5, it depends on the client. If, for example, Lily's in Australia, her 9 to 5 is different from Gary's 9 to 5, if it's different time zone. Debbie time zone could be in California. That's going to be different from somebody that's in England. So based on the contract that you sign, your 9 to 5 is going to be different from a regular 9 to 5.
Well, in my case, it's not necessarily a contract. It's people I'm working with different places putting things together. And so, they have their other schedules as well and everything like that. So we have to try to find a time where we can talk for, 30 minutes to an hour or something like that. And they can do some other things. But sometimes things come up that you have to make a decision on something. And so, is that going to be at 2 o'clock in the morning? And, I don't know where you are, Levy, but Gary, over there in Italy, you've sacrificed time by having this come on at 10 o'clock Central Time in the U.S. And so it's afternoon for you, early evening. And I appreciate that very much. But, that's hard to get all your other parameters in your work life and your personal life all set up correctly. Sleep. Someone asked me when I sleep. I told them I sleep whenever I get a chance. It might be in the middle of the day. It might be in the middle of the day. It might be in the middle of the night. I don't know. It varies. So it's not a set time frame.
Right. Yeah. It's not a set time frame, but for me, whatever I put in my contract, I stand on. I make exception, but what I put in my contract, I stand on. So if I have a client like Gary and he's in Italy, I sign a contract to work for them. Is it my time or his time? So go ahead, Lily.
I just want to be clear on what you're saying. So you have, say, a client in Australia and Italy, and then you set it for their schedule, or? because I'm not understanding like how you, because you said at first that you set your schedule 9 to 5, but and then different 9 to 5. So what is your schedule? I feel like it's all over if it's
I don't have a set schedule. That's the thing. But I have time that I spend with my family. I don't have a set schedule, but it's from 9 to 5. If you're in Australia and you see I'm working with your time, Australian time, right? Not Central Time, my time, but your time, Australian time. Sorry, go ahead.
I sorry to interrupt, but just because if you're doing that and then you're working with somebody in Italy and Australia, you might be up all day long. So I'm like, but I do think this is very like personal, right? I'm with you and I'm with David and everybody here. Like we have to find what works for us. Me personally, I'm near Gary in France, and I work with US clients mostly and in Japan. So Japan is morning for me here and then night here, which is hard because I want to be with my husband at night. But what I do is on the weekends, as much as I do have little bits of work here and there, I just like weekend is with my husband. And that's what works for me, just to share. I mean, but I think all of us working online, it probably shifts. And what also helps me is like I have certain days where I work with clients and other days where it's like behind the scenes stuff. So that like, okay, the days I know my husband doesn't work as much, I can be doing busy work during all the day and then the evenings with them. So just to share what works for me, and that shifts too every season, like the different semesters. So yay, we're resilient.
I know Steve does a lot of podcasts and a lot of workshops and so on. So Steve, tell us a little bit when you're invited as a speaker or as a host, or when you have people coming on your podcast or your workshop, how does that work with the time zones and so on? I mean, I know we're going a little bit away from the less is more and so on, but anyway, this is an interesting topic here. So how do you deal with that? Do you sort of program in with your time zones or when they're available?
And my thought is it's a little bit confusing when it's a shift of mindset, because it's getting clarity on the understanding, because most people think in their own time zone. And so when you're booking a time, it's just being aware of the fact that people tend to think locally. So if they agree to 6 p.m., most often it's 6 p.m. their time. And so if you're the one that's dealing more often with the global community, it's like it's really on us to understand it. And I struggle with it. It's I just don't claim to always be perfect in my timing. It's like, and I get clarity. Okay, what time is it for you right now?
Exactly.
I think it's this time, and it's like, and sometimes you have to go look up, but there's slight nuances, because like if somebody's in Australia, there's 3 time zones. If they're in the US, there's 3 time zones here. So for podcasts, I'll have them book an appointment on my scheduler, and most of the time, I do believe it switches for them. But if it doesn't, it's just being aware of that. And then if they book, you can send them a reminder to let them know about that. But I don't really view it as that big a deal. It's asking yourself the question, when do you want to be available, right? If it's cutting into your sleep time, is that something that's doable for you? And to me, I think that's a valid boundary to have, right?
Exactly.
Just talking about the mindset, Stephen, what you just mentioned, the mindset. I was a member of the BNI, Business Networking International groups, and I was a member here, and they met on a Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Now, some people think 7 o'clock is 7 a.m. and some people think that 7 o'clock is 7 p.m. And so if that's not specified straight away, which it wasn't, some people turned up at 7 a.m. in the morning and there was no meeting, or they turned up at 7 p.m. and the meeting had already finished in the morning. So again, it's a case of it's maybe also your internal time zones, how you're working, how you're showing up. For me, if someone said 7 o'clock, I would probably think 7 in the morning, because I'm a morning person. Someone else might just not even think about 7 in the morning. They would turn up at 7 p.m. And so, yeah, time zones, but also the way that we operate. Debbie, got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do actually, but I want to stay on topic as well. But making the language, let's say setting a language set. So back in the day in ecology, for example, we would teach people what it meant UTC. universal coordinated time. And that would be the time that we would use all the time for everything. So it's actually a matter of getting a language in place that people all understand the same thing for everything. You know, that's why the military uses 1600 for 4 p.m. or 2100 for 9 p.m. It's in my head. I don't even have to think about it. You know, I know what it is. I see it, you know, it says 2300. I know it's 11 p.m. You know, I just don't think about it anymore. And so I think for the sake of brevity, it's clarifying at the outset what the terminology and language is that you're going to be using. So everybody is on the same page. You don't have to start explaining every time, you know, instead of asking what time is that for you, or what's your time zone, or what that, I don't even bother with that anymore, more or less. I say it's UTC. Do you need to know what UTC is? Here's a link, you know, and you can figure it out. So right now, let's say 10 in the morning. Right now, it's summertime in many countries, and in other countries, it's not. So you have daylight saving times in some places. I know in Australia, for example, there are places that don't switch at all. They don't have a daylight savings time or a winter time or something. And the neighboring state, or whatever you want to call it, does have it. And so they are even confused from one, you know, from one border to the other, right? So it's a heck of a lot easier if you just have one thing to go from, just one thing to go from, you know, get clarity on the baseline. And yeah, so instead of saying it's 7 o'clock, don't even bother, you know. Just if you're constantly with these folks that you're together with, okay, if it's somebody you're only meeting once, you're only going to be talking to them once, or whatever, of course you talk their language. But if it's someone you're going to be doing business with, you can say, you know, this is part of our agreement, is that we use universal coordinated time, and that helps us be clear on time, you know, when we're going to meet.
So are we talking about the less is more? Are you talking about less communication, less speaking to be more effective?
No.
Is that what no?
No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is less room for discourse, less room for confusion, less room for misunderstandings. Yeah, less confusion, lady. Yeah, that's how I see it. If everyone knows that that's what it is. I mean, it's like, let's meet online, let's have a video conference. Okay, we'll do a video conference, right? And then one person is used to using Microsoft Teams, and they're on Microsoft Teams and say, hey, you didn't send me the link to Microsoft Teams. And the other person is on Zoom and is sitting there wondering, what the heck is going on? Why don't I have a Zoom number here? And the third person is used to Google, and they're using Google, and they're like, hey, I need a link for that Google event, right? So you've got three different understandings of let's have a video chat, and who knows where it's going to go from there. So that's the same thing with let's say time zones, with it's you communicate, but you in such a way that it's really, really clear for everyone. I don't know, Dayna, you tell me, what do you think? Right? I mean,
how do we master this with simplicity?
So it can be a case that it's going to be difficult at first, getting to on the same page when it comes on to time difference, timing, and everything. But once you understand, okay, we're working with Gary's time going forward, it cuts out all the complication. So I'm not going to think, okay, it's my time anymore. Going forward, I'm only thinking, okay, whatever meetings I have, it's on Gary time frame. And it eliminates all the chaos, give you clear clarity right there and then. Okay, I'm working with Italy time. Whenever I correspond with Gary, I know that it's Italy time. If I'm corresponding with Lily and we make agreement that, okay, we're going to correspond on my time, I know that, okay, I'm not going to expect her to think that it's her time. Everything is working with my time frame. So you have to make sure that you let the person that you're communicating with know exactly the time that you are working with. And the complexity will be gone. It's simple, easy to communicate. If Stephen have a podcast and he says, okay, my guest is in Central Time and I'm in London, and my podcast show at London time, 5 to 6, then you know that you have to communicate with that guest. Let them know my podcast is in London time. So they cannot think it's going to be their Central Time. They have to make sure that they match it up with their time zone. So there's no confusion.
Anyway, so I think we're talking about better communication for less confusion. There you are. Instead of going the other way around, less confusion, better communication. So listen, we're coming to the end. We're coming to the end, the last 5 minutes here. So let's see what we're taking away from all of this. I think we're, less is more, to be more effective, prioritizing our tasks, not taking on too many things, understanding who is the best fit to do that, not necessarily us, to look around our resources and say, okay, am I the right person to do that? Am I really, instead of just trying to be like, just like everything goes through me, so we become a bottleneck, which causes a bottleneck and that causes blocks. So I think these are the these are reflections. When you're doing that, there's also like a fear factor because you want to be important. You want everyone to go through you, and so you're afraid of your position as well. I think delegating requires a little bit more stronger leadership because you're able to give it away, delegate it, and then go back and check on it, and so on. So that's also very important. Stephen, you got a question?
It was just the thought, this thought about less and more. It's this idea that stuff that we have has some sort of attachment to it. It's either attached to something emotionally, or maybe we have like this whole sequence of thought loops that are going around that. And it's that level of awareness of whether that's helpful or not, right? It's like when we say less is more, if we can minimize those things that cause us to be, unhappy or cause us to be stressed, and then and just create space, then without filling it with anything, then we can start noticing what brings us more positivity. And then slowly we add those things on. We're not filling up our space with just something to accommodate time or clients or tasks. We're actually focusing in on those things that make our life a little bit better, a little bit more worthwhile in living. So I love that idea as well, is that less is more if we include it on what makes our life better. Right? Keep that as a part of the focus.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So next week's talk is going to be about ghostwriting. I've got a ghostwriter. I've written a book. I wrote my autobiography called Free to Fly, and I used a ghostwriter to help me write the book. And so it was a journey that I went through. It wasn't that the book itself is not a bestseller, but it was a great journey, returning to some of the places that were really painful, some of the joys, and so on. So it was really good to actually have someone who helped me go through it, because otherwise I wouldn't have done it. So that was the ghostwriter. Her name is Joy Fash Agba. I hope I'm not making that Joy. Let's call her Joy. Anyway, so she's Joy. Let's call her Joy. And she's going to be with us next week on BEwell, on next Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. 3 to 5 p.m. UTC for Debbie. Okay? But
That's it.
1500 to 1600. Better still for David. 1500, 1600 UTC. That would be my time. 5 to... So as an English teacher as well, I find I'm teaching my students AM and PM. So when I get into 1600, they're going, what's 1600? So I have to say, no, that's 4 post-meridian. So it's like 4 post-meridian. It's 4 p.m. So that's, again, confusing matters when I'm teaching the English language. However, anyway, so next Tuesday, again, from 5 to 6 my time, it's Italy time. There's going to be Joy, who's going to be talking about ghostwriting, what she does, why she does it, how she can help us if we're interested in that kind of topic, writing our books and so on. So again, Dayna Powell, thank you very much for your time, your insights on less is more. And for you participants, hopefully you're taking something away. And thank you for supporting this. And we'll see you next week if you're free.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Everyone have a great day or evening.
Bye. Bye-bye.